Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and leave that donation for that fried rice and chicken wings. Look, man, if Canelo can't cut the ring off, he loses. Simple. If he can't cut that ring off against Terence Crawford, Canelo loses. Canelo's bread and butter is that pressure, that high guard, walking you down, a very selective punch selection, and what he does well. But I am going to tell you, he's got to be able to cut that ring off, which he's been doing pretty good. Jermell Charlo was able to escape the Canelo trap, but he wasn't really focused on offense. It was more of a feet don't fail me now mission to get the hell out of Dodge just to get to the finish line. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing, man. When it comes to speedy boxers and defensive fighters, most guys like Canelo don't like those guys because they're frustrating. What do? They bang on themselves and they say, come to the middle of the ring, and they point in the middle of the ring and all that shit. And they look at the crowd and to try to get everybody riled up because they can't get their way because they want to make it a mash-up, crash-up type of fight. And Crawford ain't going for that bullshit, so I'll tell you that right now. And if Crawford does make the mistake to try to prove, which some of his fans feel, that Crawford's going to be the bigger, stronger fighter on fight night when he faces Canelo, to that I say, in the most respectful way, hold your horses and stop taking it to the stupid. Crawford ain't going to be the bigger, stronger, more powerful fighter. He may be the same weight. That don't make him bigger. Get out of here with that bullshit. We got to be real about this. I'm not saying Crawford's going to be weak. That's not what I'm saying. But Crawford's going to be bigger, stronger. You're going to walk him down. You're going to take him. You're going to hip toss him, suplex him. You're going to bite him. Stop with the bullshit. I'll tell you what, realistically, Crawford's going to probably do. He's probably going to have great speed, and he's going to be defense first in a lot of what he does, and that's going to create frustration for Canelo. Because what we saw with Jermell Charlo is the faster you run, the faster you run away. And as a result, if he was able to let his hands go somewhat, maybe the fight becomes a bit competitive. But I just think when you talk about a guy like Terence Crawford, man, I don't see Crawford sitting still, giving Canelo opportunities to hit him. I think Crawford may be in a corner, and Canelo will rush him, and Crawford will find a way to squeeze out, whether he goes left or right. You know what I mean? I just find he's going to find a way to weasel out of those corners and not himself to get trapped. And if he does, he won't be there long enough for Canelo to really mount an attack. Now, that being said, man, a guy like Crawford could end up being an opponent, which could probably be a nightmare for Canelo, is where you're pressuring him, you're cutting the ring off, he's squirreling his way out of the corners, but as he's running away, he's hitting you. So now you cutting the ring off of a guy, and you think you got him, and all of a sudden, he's not there, and he's binging you. That's the worst thing for Canelo. So in order to make sure that doesn't happen, he's got to be able to effectively cut the ring off and not give Crawford anywhere to run, because now you take his space away. Okay? Now, what I see a lot of fighters doing, Canelo has done this too. Now, he's probably one of the better guys at cutting the ring off, but he has made this mistake. Canelo will chase an opponent around the ring at times. And if you run directly into your opponent, especially a guy like Crawford, Canelo's going to get bing the way Crawford did Earl Spence. Doesn't mean he's going to go down and fall all over the ring and look crazy like Earl Spence did, but he's going to get hit. He's going to get touched up, and that's the worst thing Canelo could do is just run straight at Crawford. Crawford's got a reach advantage. He has timing. The man has outstanding accuracy, and his counter-punching ability is second to none. So if Canelo, for some reason, find himself running straight towards Crawford, it's not going to be good because Canelo may get tempted, man, depending on how the fight's going. If he can't just come and have his way with Crawford, you could see him, being tempted to be more aggressive than what we've seen and taking more risks than what we've seen. And you could just see where now his opponent, Terence Crawford, happens to come out here and he catches Canelo and could have Canelo running around the ring because now he got hit by some shit by the quote-unquote smaller guy that he wasn't supposed to get hit with. And now he got a reality check like, damn, this is a fight and this guy can hurt me. So I just think with me, a guy like Canelo, the closer you get, I think it's the easier it is for someone to run away from you. So I think Canelo has to be kind of jab his way in and be very careful. When he's going forward into his opponent, I think he needs to make sure he can't let Crawford, escape to the sides. He's going to have to step with him. He's going to have to make the right anticipatory moves to ensure that he can control Crawford. And he's got to throw those hooks. If Crawford goes to Crawford's right, Canelo needs to be throwing his hook to try to control him. If Crawford goes to his left, Canelo needs to be shooting that right hook to control him. And that's how you contain a guy who's trying to slip when you're putting pressure on him. But that being said, man, you just can't follow him around the ring. You got to cut off the space so he has nowhere to run. And that's why you hear a lot of times, same way these fighters like, stand here and fight me. You hear the boxing coaches yell, don't follow him, cut the ring off. And when they come back in the corners, if they're not doing that, they're screaming at him. Now, you got to move sideways, man. You're cutting the ring off. Everything can't just be straight ahead. It's got to be left, right. And then sometimes you're moving it on angles. And you watch Canelo, man, he moves sideways. When he's fighting a fighter, Canelo's footwork is on point. He knows when to step, where to step, and how to just keep getting closer and closer to you to where finally he has you in a small space and he's letting them hands go, man. Now, some people don't know this. They think the easiest way to cut the ring off is just to go in a straight line, okay? Because that's the fastest way to travel from point A to point B is a straight line. But when cutting the ring off, the easiest way to cut it off is by moving sideways. And a lot of people, they don't tend to know that. But it keeps your opponent in front of you. And when they can't run around you, because you're moving sideways, they can't go around you, there's only one way to go. They ain't coming forward. They can't go left or right. They can only go one way, and that's going back. And when they go back, you can eventually trap their ass against those ropes. And that's what Canelo's going to have to go to. If Crawford goes left, which he may try to go, then you go left too. If he tries to go right, then you go right. It's not difficult, people. But every time you follow him sideways, I'm telling you, man, he's going to feel that, a fighter's going to feel that pressure because they just can't get around you. And then you'll see some guys eventually, what will they do? They'll just fall into you like Shakur Stevenson and grab you because the pressure's getting to him. And Crawford got to be careful if he tries to try to lunge in and tie up Canelo. I'm not saying Canelo's going to overpower him, but Canelo will let his hands go. You're not just going to clinch him and think Canelo's going to tap you on the back and be like, okay, clean break. No, Canelo's going to fucking let his hands go. And that's where Crawford can find himself getting bing. But Crawford's he's not careless. If he wraps up Canelo, he's going to tuck his chin into his shoulder, and he's going to hold him and tie up his arms and make sure that Canelo can't hit him unless Canelo tries to shoulder check him and do some crazy shit. But I don't think so, man. But the bottom line is a guy like Canelo, he's got to make his presence felt in there. He's got to make his presence felt. And he's always got to be in front of Crawford, and he's got to be inside of Crawford because Crawford likes to create his own spotlight at times. You watch Crawford, he's in there, man, doing shit and creating his own spotlight. But Canelo's got to be inside of his spotlight, man, to really get Crawford to start to fumble and for the game plan to start unraveling to where Bomac is in the corner, sweating feverishly so much so that he probably drops 150 pounds just because he's like, holy shit, Canelo putting pressure on Crawford. I'm feeling that pressure, and I'm over here sweating with him. But that's easier said than done because we know Crawford is an amazing fighter. And I tell you what, I even think if Crawford ends up getting pressured so much to where now he's like, okay, I don't like this, and he's trying to get farther away from him, I just think Crawford, he may not be able to go left or right because the ring's being effectively cut off. I think Crawford will still find a way to nullify Canelo's offensive advances and his efforts to cut the ring off. Crawford's not, I'd say it's going to be a chess match in there. I'm sure Crawford's going to know how to deal with someone trying to cut the ring off and try to put that pressure on him. But the best thing Canelo could do, and the thing Crawford cannot allow Canelo to do, is he can't allow himself to be trapped in the corner. The corner is the worst place for a fighter. You've seen times where fighters get caught in the corner and they can't get out of that shit. They get in the corner and bad things happen. You saw when Zab Judah and Mayweather were fighting. Zab was doing pretty good early in the fight. Mayweather started to have some success. But at one point, Zab got Mayweather into the corner and was able to get some shots off. You saw Miguel Cotto when he fought Floyd Mayweather. Floyd was having his way. Miguel Cotto put up a valiant effort. But when Miguel Cotto got Floyd in the corner, Miguel Cotto was able to work a little bit, you know what I'm saying, and get that left hand off. And that's a good example of probably the best defensive boxer to have ever existed, right? That even he felt that pressure and had the ring cut off and found himself in the corner and bad shit happened. If that could happen to Floyd, it can happen to Bud. The other thing is just back up to keep the opponent in front of you. If you get too close to them, they can squirrel out. So, you want to make sure that you're reading the distance and you're backing up, man, and you want to keep them in front of you. And that's where if you get them in the corner, you got to make sure that you're maintaining space and don't get too close and don't pivot with them. This is where drilling this shit over and over in training is what a fighter has to do, man, because when you get a guy trying to escape, you can step back and you can hit him with something to put him right back in position, man, and then push him back in the corner again. So the slick guys are trying to pivot out and slip to bait you and to throw in punches so they can escape. Because if they can get you to throw punches, that means I can get the hell up out of there. And they slip those punches and they're gone, and you're like, damn, where'd they go? But all you got to do is take a step back, reset, and they can't get past you. You know what I'm saying? So that being said, Terrence Crawford, he got to be careful with Canelo putting that pressure. He got to make the right reads when Canelo's being over-aggressive so where he can, if he find himself in the corner, can escape and get out of there, probably turn Canelo, and then he can go to work. But I'm just telling you, man, Canelo has a kind of drowning style where he can wear you down and he can make it hard. He can make it hard for Crawford to touch him, man. You know what I'm saying? And if Canelo may just be wearing him down, not even letting his hands go, just wearing him down, mentally trying to just drain Crawford, man. And then you see that all of a sudden it starts to become a bit easier to get to him and push him back. And that's what Crawford can't allow to happen. Anyway, y'all keep cool. There's so many different things we could talk about. But be looking for Canelo to try to cut that ring off on Crawford and get to work. Creating space, not allowing Crawford to escape. But also, man, expect Canelo to do something kind of like what we saw Bertabiev do with Bivol. He was pushing light punches and then exploding with the hard punches. And Bertabiev had a lot of success against Bivol because he threw more light than hard, but he was throwing, I call him coochie cooing. He was kind of coochie cooing Bivol. Pity pat, light punches, just to touch him up, just to push him back a little bit. And then once Bivol was pushed back, you saw he was placing the punches exactly where he wanted. And then he was hurting him with hard punches. And then Bivol was rolling out of there. That's a good example of the boxer facing the puncher, and the puncher coochie cooing, pushing you back with light punches, getting you where you want you, and then exploding, but then not being able to keep his opponent in front of him all the time. Very, very good example. And one of the problems with a guy like Canelo who throws everything hard, Bivol doesn't. Bertabiev doesn't, but he can. But the problem when you get a guy like Canelo that's throwing hard punches, man, it can make it easy for someone to defend against, someone to evade, and for someone to escape. Because you kind of end up winding up, and you're not really. You become ineffective with your goal of trying to contain them. When you start winding up, they can start reading that shit. And then you can find yourself where they escape or they start touching you up. And that's not what you want, man. And it makes it easy for the guy to grab you and commit to their own hard punches, man, early in the fight. So it's just best to use the light punches that Canelo should do to kind of set up Crawford when he has the opportunity to let his hard punches go and as the fight progresses, really start to let those hard punches go, man. Because one thing about light punches, even though they're light, they make sure that you have, even though they're light, I think it allows a fighter to maintain an aggressive presence. So they may not be getting hit with anything hard, but you got this guy in front of you who's coming at you, and you just don't know when he's going to switch gears. And I just think it helped to maintain, again, that psychologically, that draining a person, mentally draining them, killing them, you know what I'm saying? And if you can do that, man, I think it makes it more likely for a guy, any fighter, to be more passive than usual. That's what you saw happen with Jamel Charlo. And, could give up his ground. And if not, they'll, definitely give up rounds for sure because they don't want to get hit. Anyway, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. I just think Crawford's going to have to escape big shots, get close, pivot out, just try not to take a step back, and then I think Crawford will be all right. But it's going to be a tough fight. Tough fight, interesting fight. I think Crawford can win, but I also feel Canelo should be the favorite. It's not a straightforward fight. This shit is more complex than what people think. Let's not be reductive thinkers. If it's a complex fight, keep it complex. Don't try to simplify it because you can't. In the breeze.